He just goes in there like it's nothing. Is that like blood on your face, bro? Woo! Dude. What's up guys, Derek, moreplates.com. Today we are going to be doing another gyno video. So a slew of messages have been coming in over the past couple of weeks as more and more gyno videos have been published on my channel, and it has led to some interesting stuff being surfaced, like shit I didn't even know existed on YouTube, to be honest. Like we had like the guy injecting test into his nipple. That wasn't on YouTube, it was on the Discord. But after that, we had, you know, I guess fitness celebrities talking about using serums in order to try and get rid of their gyno to avoid surgery. You have people doing gyno surgeries on TikTok, you know, and having them blow up. Now we literally have motherfucking guys performing gyno surgery on themselves, apparently. This guy has a video called Gynecomastia and then some stuff I can't understand because it's not in my language. But here the guy is literally ready to perform fucking surgery on himself. And somehow, I don't know what this guy's credentials are, or if he is, like he does this for a living on other people, so he feels like he's qualified to do it on himself. I don't know. It'd be interesting if somebody speaks his language, if they could interpret what he's saying. The weird thing is it's not, you would think I'm on 1.25 or 1.5 times speed like I usually am, but no, the guy is just like hyper sped up, even though my playback speed is normal.
Agak sedikit sakit aja deh, supaya nggak begitu sakit. Pasti anestesi krimnya juga salutnya gitu. Jadi pas disuntikin nggak berasa sakit sama sekali. Kemudian aku tunggu ini sekitar 10 menit lagi. Nah, sembari tunggu 10 menit, aku mau jelasin.
So anyway, presumably he's explaining what he's going to be doing, and then he shows all of his shit that he's going to be using. The guy has literally got his own medical fucking setup here at his house, ready to go. And super fucking sketch, dude. Now, obviously, it goes without saying, this is not going to be a video about me being like, don't do gyno surgery at your house. Like, no fucking shit. So I just wanted to react to this video and then give some insight on gynecomastia prevention after, proactive strategies for avoiding getting to a situation where you would even need to go to an actual surgeon to get it done. Obviously, you're not going to do it yourself like this guy is, but I'm shocked, dude. Like, there are actually people doing this kind of shit out there. Like, maybe I should have been less surprised after seeing the guy inject the test into his nipple, which I don't even know if it was legit or not, but that was a pretty inflamed looking gland. So this guy here, he's, crying emoji face. Fuck. Like, this cannot be, whatever he's saying, cannot be good, bro. Well, I guess why would you be happy if you're about to cut your fucking nipple open, right? So anyway, he goes through the thing, and he actually literally performs the fucking surgery on himself on camera. Bro, like baffling shit, dude. Baffling shit. He just goes in there like it's fucking nothing. Is that like blood on your face, bro? Woo! Dude. And there's the love eyes with the tissue out. Fuck, dude. That's ruthless. That's ruthless. So anyways, the guy did it himself, and obviously you don't want to end up in a position where you have to get that done by somebody else, and obviously you're not going to do it your fucking self. So what do you do to avoid it? Well, at the end of the day, you've heard me talk many times about how it doesn't just come down to the testosterone to estrogen ratio. A lot of people think, oh, the more estrogen you have, that is the only thing that's going to facilitate gyno exacerbation, the exacerbation of gyno. I think that's how you would say it grammatically. I don't fucking know though. But no, there's actually more things that can contribute and stimulate the production of gyno that often go overlooked. One of them being progesterone, one being HGH and IGF-1, prolactin as well. So, you know, the main thing is obviously estrogen. You know, this is the estrogen receptor agonist that literally stimulates the growth of breast tissue. And it's probably the main reason why females have breasts and dudes don't. Realistically, it's this balance of androgens to estrogen and other stimulatory inputs too. So how do you, regulate this? How do you manage it? Should you have all kinds of ancillaries on hand, like aromatase inhibitors, fucking anti-prolactin drugs? Should you be using, avoiding certain things? Well, like obviously the main approach would be not using too much of something that's going to cause gyno to begin with. So that means doing your research and not doing a cycle of test decadebol right away. This is not using, like, to be honest, it's not that hard to avoid if you actually know what compounds overlap and kind of exacerbate each other and approach things with a more titrated, intelligent, responsible approach. So rather than just jumping haphazardly into, 500 tests plus like something else that aromatizes, like 500 tests plus 30 to 40 milligrams of D-bol, Gyno City, rather you assess what you can tolerate with one singular compound. There's a reason why everyone recommends only doing one thing on your first cycle. You would see what you tolerate well, your upper limit of that without needing to introduce aromatase inhibition. And ideally, you never get to that point to begin with. Right at that cap is where you'd look, okay, do I need to reel things back? Do I need to add in an adjunct compound that is not a substrate for aromatase? What should that compound be? Certainly not something that aromatizes and or has significant upregulation of, whatever it is that you are prone to necessarily. Everyone has kind of their own, predispositions in terms of some people can have significantly exacerbated sensitivity to gyno from MK677 use or even, recombinant HGH use. There's some evidence that suggests you can actually significantly upregulate how much estrogen you produce just by introducing recombinant HGH alongside whatever your anabolics are. Like, there's a lot of shit that goes totally overlooked when it comes to cycle design. Like, you would not think in your head, if I start using HGH, that's going to increase my estrogen. Like, no, you would think this increases my IGF-1, which I guess downstream may have some stimulatory impact on gyno development, but you would not think that it also has a 1 + 1 = 3 effect where it can actually spikes your IGF-1, but also concurrently increases your estrogen level too. So when it comes to prevention / mitigation strategies, like, ideally you don't want to, like, at least I think the logical approach would be not putting yourself in a position where you have to use so much. Like, you have to use an ancillary just to get away with using a higher dose of a certain compound that you can't tolerate. So hypothetically, you get to a dose of testosterone that you cannot possibly tolerate without getting side effects that are intolerable from an estrogen aspect to the point where you need to introduce Arimidex, Aromasin, blah, blah, blah alongside it just to keep that dose of test. At that point, does it not make sense to introduce an adjunct that does not convert to estrogen and can then have a contributing impact on the androgen side of the equation relative to the stimulation of the glandular development? That's the kind of thing I would think of when it comes to proactive management rather than let's make sure we have ancillaries on hand to throw in more drugs into our system just to run a higher dose than I can actually tolerate side effect wise of this, like people who are using anti-prolactin drugs in order to run like a high dose of tren, like, why not just use less tren and use more of something else, Like, there's probably a reason why you're getting significant side effects is because your body does not fucking tolerate it that well at this dose. And maybe you should use something that's more, selective for protein expression rather than something that's going to be so progestogenic that it fucks you up, And you have to use some dopamine receptor agonist just to keep shit in check so you don't end up going off the deep end when you're using progestin. So, when it comes to gyno, at the end of the day, I think the majority of people, unless you are very, very genetically predisposed, would be able to get away with not getting it if they didn't use things like, over-the-counter pro-hormones that used to be around. They're probably still pretty easy to get, that you can't really predict what's even going to happen. You don't know how much of the compound, like, there's not a lot of good, like pharmacokinetic, pharmacodynamics data on some of these more like obscure pro-hormones, for example. So I don't think it's a coincidence that a lot of people, when they ended up with their worst gyno development, it was when they were, a teenager and they used some random over-the-counter pro-hormone that essentially was an unpredictable, like, wild card trash bin hormone that was shelved and or, just like a totally abandoned drug from decades ago from like a pharmaceutical company that was revived just to sell at a supplement store in like some, via some private labeled company. I don't think it's a coincidence that a lot of the cases of gyno are coming up from that kind of a compound. So, avoiding stuff like that are like unpredictably bad. And then in terms of actual anabolics, like, approved for human use compounds and or stuff that is traditionally used in the bodybuilding community, it's just not having, again, it comes down to doing your research, not having significantly overlapping compound selection where you're using, testosterone plus D-bol plus nandrolone, shit like this that is going to make a 1 + 1 = 5 effect when you're not really intelligently, thoroughly thinking through your selection. So, why would you have two things that are literally designed to convert into a sufficient amount of estrogen to be a therapeutic TRT backbone at the same time at a super physiological dose, like a significantly super physiologic dose. So, yeah, like gyno should not be something you even need to learn how to, like, obviously you shouldn't need to get surgery to begin with, ideally, because you would never get to that point. But it's all about during the education process of understanding how the formation of it actually occurs. And it's not about just taking, the cycle your buddy recommended. Rather, it is figuring out what your body can tolerate with singular deployment of a compound, like not just, haphazardly throwing together combinations because, buddy over here said this is the best one for mass, buddy over here said this is the best one for aggression, blah, blah, blah. Rather, you start with, one thing, you learn how that works, you learn how you respond to it. And then once you start, stacking, that's where the actual, like, you should already know and be educated about what you would be stacking and why before you get into just like even testosterone monotherapy, obviously. But again, it all comes down to what can you tolerate personally and avoiding the shit that is going to bring you to this position in the first place. If you end up in this position, and by the way, like these steps in terms of what sort of makes sense, like you would think, like what are these compounds that you would add in as adjuncts? Like obviously that's sort of, on you at the end of the day to do the education process, but things that don't convert to estrogen that are more specifically designed for pure protein expression and driving, like not having significant satellite interactions with mineral corticoid receptors, having significant interaction with estrogen receptors, etc. This is the kind of thing you would be like a gyno safe approach sort of, because it's kind of like pure androgen input relative to estrogenicity, where you'd have something like a masteron, something like a primabol and shit like this that is, if anything, going to reduce your estrogenic burden either through aromatase, like competition, or just the indirect burden of androgenicity relative to the lack of estrogenicity in the compound, balancing it out. So, like again, because if you added D-bol instead of, primobolan, for example, all of a sudden you have this extra load of estrogen on top of it. And obviously there's downstream interactions with the GH-IGF-1 axis and extra estrogen, so you could have a 1 + 1 = 3 effect kind of thing. Depending on what you're using, again, this is all shit to consider, but at the end of the day, if you get to a point where you have gyno development and it's kind of like, you're kind of fucked, that's where you have to talk to your doctor about SERMs, and that's where I would highly recommend discussing Avista/roloxifene with them and seeing if that is a potential candidate for your current situation. And if not, maybe you need to look at cosmetic surgery, and if you do, obviously get a qualified fucking surgeon. Don't pull a YouTube and like do this yourself trying to be cost effective, because at the end of the day, this is not the kind of thing you want to cut corners on. You don't want to fly somewhere obscure and get some like shitty random guy. Even hair transplants, bro. I see some people, I'm not saying Turkey is bad, by the way. I'm just saying, like, I've heard of some people getting getting massacred, going to random places around the world based on a price tag rather than just investing in somebody who's very, very vetted and you're going to get high quality work done. Like the amount of damage you could do to yourself on a cosmetic level when it comes to like gynecomastia, hair transplants, blah, blah, blah. Save up the money and get like high quality shit done. That is my suggestion. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed that one. Like, subscribe, check out my blog, moreplacemordates.com. Follow me on Instagram at moreplacemordates, Facebook, Snapchat, BitChute, Twitter, TikTok, Apple Podcasts. If you want to support the channel, you can check out anything I'm associated with in the video description below, including my TRT clinic and my recommended lab tests and diagnostics to stay on top of your shit. So anyways, thank you guys for watching. Talk to you soon.